Essie here with a process video for Lottie Loves Paper, and I do have to just announce that this video does count as advertising. So I'm going to do a mixed media background, and I'm using the Simple Stories Heart collection for my papers and embellishments. I'm starting off with the good old packaging technique, and I've got Hickory Smoke Distress Spray, and I've got Seafoam and Mint Green Heidi Swap Colour Shine. I'm just laying the grey down to start with, using a bit of kitchen roll to mop up where I've got too much, and just going to add another layer over the top. I want a bit more colour up at the top of my page. I use a paintbrush just to spread the colour around on the packaging before I go down onto the paper. It just helps to even out the ink when it's on it. You don't get too much of a blob all in one place, I find. So I just find that helps a bit. And then I'm using the two Heidi Swap colours to add splatters. And because the grey is distress, you're getting that lovely sort of wick effect where it's on sort of layered onto the distress ink where it's still wet, which I quite like. Adding those two green colours in to add a bit more detail. So now I've got this 12 by 12 sheet from the Simple Stories range, and I'm just going to cut the cards, the little squares up to use on my layout. I want a good mix of colours, and some with words, some with symbols, and so I'm just choosing the squares that I want to use. I really want another yellow one, but there isn't another yellow one. The only other yellow one there has got words on, and I don't really want another words square with words. So I end up having a look in a minute through the patterned paper that's left to choose a piece that I can use to create my own little square. So because as you can see there, I've got a couple of the green, I've got 2 or 3 white ones, but I've only got 1 yellow. So just having a look through the papers until I find something that will work. And I'm going to use the piece of yellow there from the cut apart sheet because the scale is also right. So there is a 12 by 12 sheet with that yellow floral pattern on, but the flowers are obviously bigger because they're scaled to the 12 by 12. So using a little piece from that cut apart sheet, I've got the pattern, the smaller pattern on the square. So I think my ink is still a bit wet there. I was about to launch into my next stage of my background, but I'm going to pop it aside for a bit longer to leave it a bit more time to dry and create my layers of papers behind my photograph. This is a photograph of my lovely late dad with one of his granddaughters at a family function. And this collection is just lovely to scrap photographs of him. And it's been quite healing, quite therapeutic, and I've really enjoyed using it. These are the first photographs I've been able to scrap of him since he passed away end of 2018. So it's been really healing. So I love this collection for that. There's some lovely sentiments and words to use for sort of memorial type pages, but also it's really versatile as well. There's lots more you can do with it. So I mean, there's words like miss you and always remember, which can be applied to all sorts of things. I'm going to use this heart chipboard sticker, and it's lovely. It's got gold foiling on it. And my ink is dry enough now, so I'm coming in with my Nouveau embellishment mousse. And I can't remember what it's called. I think it's lemon sherbet, this colour, perhaps. I'll look it up. And I love this embellishment mousse because it's really quite thick and creamy, and it spreads beautifully without sort of seeping out underneath the stencil. And it dries quite quickly as well. And it's got a really beautiful shimmer. So now that's dry, I'm sort of working out the positioning of the little cards. And I'm using the Scraplift from the Scrap Squad Facebook page for inspiration for my layout this week as well. It's a relatively new group, and they have a new Scraplift every Friday. I'm generally about a week behind, but I have done them all so far. I'm just adding some foam pads to my photo layers there, just to give a bit of extra dimension between the layers. And now that's dry properly, I'm going to start constructing my layout and putting it all together. I want to add some more detail onto that background first. So I've just got some stamps. There's a couple of little small stamps, a little heart and an ampersand, and I also use a word stamp. I'm just going to create little clusters of the stamps using the 3 stamps and little clusters together across my background. And then I've got little word as well to finish off those clusters of 3s. I'm not doing the clusters, as you can see. I'm sort of positioning the stamps slightly differently across the page, across the clusters, but still keeping them in groups of 3. And now I'm going to position my squares amongst the texture paste and stamping. Working out where I want my photograph to go, jiggling the order of the squares to get a nice balance of colour. And then I'm going to start gluing them down. I'm going to add some on foam so that there's some have got dimension. Using silicone glue gel to stick them down, I find that this is really quite useful to use a wet glue when you've got a mixed media background. That's particularly where you've got texture paste where the background is a bit uneven. And it also provides the opportunity to sort of squidge them around a bit. That's a technical term. Squidge them around a bit to adjust their position if they're not quite right, which I quite like. So that's them all in place, and I'm now just adding a piece of fun foam to the back of my photograph as well to pop that in place too. And then I just want to add some smaller details. I generally, when I'm putting together a layout, I start with the biggest embellishments and work down in size. I always create my background first, then I add my ephemera and paper layers, things like that. And then I add the smaller finishing touches in terms of Nouveau drops, little enamel stickers, things like that. For this layout, I'm also adding a frame. So I've just trimmed about 1/2 centimetre off each edge, or it might even have been 1 centimetre, off each edge of my background, and I'm adding it to this sheet of sort of buttery lemon cardstock that's just from my stash to provide a bit of a border. I like borders. I often doodle a border if I don't want to add an extra layer of patterned or plain cardstock. But I think this plain cardstock just draws your eye in to the layout and just finishes it off. Just adjusting where I've squidged around and moved my pieces, and adding another little bit of foam under my photograph there to secure it a bit more, and sticking that chipboard sticker down firmly. And now I'm going to come in with some finishing touches. I've got some chipboard stickers from the Heart collection. I've got some gold and some white hearts that have got a gold outline, gold foiled outline. These are really pretty. And then a couple of little chipboard flower clusters, which I'm adding directly sort of onto those squares with the hearts on, as you can see. And I'm just dotting those around between the pattern squares. I don't use that bigger one that's sort of plonked on the corner there. I put that away, decide I don't need it. But I do want something else. It needs a little bit of something else. So I'm going to add some black Nouveau drops in a minute. I'm just deciding, I think I'm just deciding which colour to go for. Could have gone for gold. I didn't have the right colour, sort of minty green colour. Could have done yellow or gold, but I decide on black just to add a little bit more detail. And then I also want to add a few more little coloured hearts. So I'm just looking through my stickers to see which ones are the right colours. These are not from, they won't be from the Simple Stories. They're just from my stash. Just going to use a couple to add in to bring in a bit more colour. And there I found some that have got some mint green and grey and lemony hearts in. So I'm just adding those in amongst the chipboard stickers and the cardstock squares. They add another texture. These are puffy stickers, so they just add another texture and a bit more colour. Thank you so much for watching. That's pretty much it. That's all I do, just to add the finishing touches. I hope to see you here again soon. Please leave me comments. Let me know how I'm doing, what you'd like to see in my videos, what you'd like to see me change, if anything. And don't forget to pop across to the Lottie Loves Paper shop. And I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks then. Bye.